Many Americans believe racial violence was spontaneous, isolated, and condemned by authorities protecting public order. White men stand relaxed beside storefronts, watching crowds gather, trusting police uniforms guarantee selective protection tonight. Black veterans return home wearing service caps, noticing stares harden and hands tighten around nightsticks. City officials exchange glances inside offices, weighing crowd moods against political debts owed elsewhere. The violence begins not as chaos, but as permission, granted through silence and selective enforcement. Police sergeants step aside as white mobs advance, batons lowered, eyes tracking only black movement. A black porter is dragged from a streetcar uniform torn, metals catching lamplight briefly. Passengers remain seated, gripping hats understanding which reactions will invite punishment. Newspapers print morning editions, blaming disorder on unnamed agitators. Photographs carefully cropped of perpetrators. Editors choose verbs that soften blows, transforming attacks into clashes and murders into misunderstandings. Black neighborhoods organize watches, men rotating shifts, rifles visible but unfired, faces disciplined. Their restraint unsettles city leaders who expected panic, flight, and predictable submission. White businessmen demand order restored, meaning labor stability, meaning black workers returning silently tomorrow. Mayors issue statements urging calm while approving additional deputizations drawn from volunteer mobs. Badges are handed out hastily, metal pins glinting as civilian coats gain official authority overnight. These new officers move confidently, knowing complaints will vanish inside filing cabinets tomorrow morning. Black women barricade doors, moving children away from windows, listening for boots on pavement. Church basements filled with families, pastors coordinating food, information, and guarded exits. Telephone operators route calls selectively, delaying pleas from black districts until lines conveniently fail. Fire departments respond late. Hoses coiled deliberately, slow as flames consume targeted blocks. Insurance adjusters arrive quickly afterward, notebooks ready, already certain which claims will be denied. They photograph rubble methodically, avoiding faces, documenting loss without acknowledging cause. Local judges review arrests, releasing white detainees immediately, citing insufficient evidence or confusion. Black men remain jailed overnight, bruised, charged vaguely with incitement or unlawful assembly. Military units are requested not to protect black residents, but to restore economic confidence. Soldiers patrol commercial streets, rifles visible, guarding banks while smoke rizzes elsewhere. Black veterans approach officers respectfully, papers ready, bodies straight, voices controlled. Their service records mean nothing against assumptions learned before enlistment ever began. White newspapers praise the restraint of authorities, congratulating officials for preventing wider disorder. Black presses record names, injuries, dresses, building an archive few institutions will acknowledge. City councils debate relief funds, arguing budgets cannot reward communities associated with trouble. Aid is delayed, redirected, or conditioned upon pledges of future compliance. White landlords raise rents immediately after destruction, citing scarcity created conveniently overnight. Black families crowd into surviving rooms, paying more for less safety. Federal officials monitor reports quietly, concerned primarily about international reputation after the recent war. Public condemnation risks, alienating voters whose support maintains fragile coalitions. Investigations are announced, commissions formed, and members selected from familiar, respectable circles. Hearings feature uniformed testimony, while black witnesses wait hours, then are dismissed. Recommendations emphasize harmony, personal responsibility, and improved communication between communities. No officer loses rank. No mayor resigns, and no editor retracts language. The violence spreads city to city, patterns repeating with disturbing administrative efficiency. Rumors travel faster than trains, carried by telegraph operators choosing which messages pass. Black workers hesitate before shifts, calculating wages against the visible risk of walking home. Factories warn absences will be punished. Neutrality declared meaningless against asymmetric danger. White unions threaten strikes if black labor is protected, framing exclusion as stability. Industrial leaders side predictably, valuing production uninterrupted over lives endangered. Black leaders petition governors, letters formal, language restrained, evidence attached carefully. Responses arrive weeks later, praising civic engagement without addressing immediate harm. Photographers stage images of restored streets, debris cleared, commerce resumed. Destroyed black blocks remain unpictured, absence reinforcing narrative of normalcy. School boards quietly adjust curricula, emphasizing unity, avoiding discussion of recent unrest. Children are taught peace returns naturally, without examining who enforced it. Black children learn different lessons at home, whispered, cautious, precise. They memorize routes to avoid, signals, meaning danger, and names not spoken publicly. White civic groups hold meetings, celebrating resilience, fundraising for memorial plaques, names engraved honor officers fallen elsewhere, never civilians killed locally. Legal challenges are filed, stalled, appealed, and costs are accumulating beyond the plaintiff's resources. Courts move deliberately slow. Justice stretched thin until interest dissipates. National leaders reference disturbances as unfortunate episodes during a difficult transition period. Language compresses terror into an administrative inconvenience, manageable through patience. Black communities document losses meticulously, ledgers listing deaths, injuries, and destroyed businesses. These records circulate internally, are distrusted externally, archived without official recognition. White historians begin drafting accounts, sourcing newspapers, police reports, and municipal minutes. Their narratives inherit institutional blind spots, reproducing them with academic authority. Public memory forms around parades, speeches, and anniversaries, emphasizing progress after turmoil. The cost of the order disappears behind banners and brass bands. Black survivors watch commemorations from sidewalks, recognizing the faces of men who attacked them. Police stand between groups, posture suggesting neutrality learnt through precedent. Textbooks later summarized the summer briefly, attributing violence to tensions and misunderstandings. Agency dissolves into abstraction. Responsibility spread thin enough to disappear. Yet files remain locked in basements, photographs mislabeled, testimonies never transcribed fully. These silences are maintained actively through budgets, staffing choices, and editorial discretion. The pattern becomes policy, repeated whenever Black presence threatens established hierarchies again. Institutions refine responses, learning how to appear lawful while enabling harm. By summer's end, cities report come restored, commerce steady, elections approaching, unresolved grief settles into routine, unresolved accountability deferred indefinitely. The story pauses here, not concluded, but stabilized by deliberate forgetting mechanisms. Calm rests uneasily over neighborhoods rebuilt unevenly, with security prioritized where capital concentrates visibly. Black residents resume routines cautiously, scanning sidewalks, reading uniforms, and measuring acceptable posture daily. Police departments revise protocols quietly, formalizing practices tested during recent unrest. Training emphasizes crowd control, threat identification, and discretionary enforcement without explicit racial language. Municipal budgets increase policing allocations, justified by lessons learned in maintaining order. Requests for housing repair funds encounter delays, audits, and strict eligibility filters. Insurance companies adjust underwriting standards, mapping risk zones aligned suspiciously with destroyed Black blocks. Premiums rise selectively, reinforcing boundaries of violence already established physically. Black entrepreneurs seek loans to rebuild, sitting across desks from men reviewing ledgers skeptically. Collateral requirements shift, interest rates climb, and approvals are quietly denied without written explanations. White-owned competitors expand into cleared areas, acquiring property cheaply through intermediaries. Zoning boards approve changes swiftly, citing economic revitalization and civic improvement goals. Black newspapers continue reporting disparities. Circulation limited by advertising boycotts organized discreetly. Editors balance truth against survival, trimming language to avoid permanent closure. National press attention fades, redirected toward labor disputes and foreign negotiations. Red Summer becomes shorthand, stripped of detail, save for retrospective mention only. Universities commission studies analyzing unrest causes, privileging sociological distance over lived testimony. Researchers interview officials first, framing questions around governance challenges rather than targeted violence. Black scholars submit counter-arguments, and peer-review panels question objectivity and methodological rigor. Gatekeeping preserves consensus, labeling dissent as advocacy rather than scholarship. Monuments are proposed to honor peace restored, plaques thanking authorities for their leadership. Design committees reject references to victims, fearing controversy and donor withdrawal. School textbooks adopt neutral phrasing, emphasizing reconciliation, minimizing perpetrators' identities. Students memorize dates, not faces, learning conflict without accountable actors. Black parents teach parallel histories at kitchen tables, voices low, children attentive. These lessons emphasize vigilance, documentation, and controlled visibility for survival. Police departments track black organizers, files growing thicker despite peaceful activities. Surveillance normalizes suspicion, transforming community leadership into monitored risk. Courts rule narrowly on civil suits, acknowledging harm while denying systemic responsibility. Precedent forms quietly, shaping future litigation boundaries restrictively. Political candidates campaign on stability narratives, praising cities' recovery from disturbances. Donations flow from businesses benefiting from post-violence restructuring. Black voters face new registration hurdles, justified as administrative improvements. Lines lengthen, hours shorten, and participation is discouraged without overt prohibition. Federal agencies collect reports internally. Classification limiting public dissemination. Archival decisions determine which stories remain accessible generations later. Photographs surface decades afterward, misfiled, showing deputized civilians posing confidently. Researchers trace badges, uniforms, and faces, connecting violence to official sanction. Public reactions split, some expressing shock, others defending ancestors' actions pragmatically. Debate centers on memory politics rather than documented institutional choices. Cities issue apologies carefully worded, acknowledging pain without conceding liability. Compensation remains symbolic, gestures substituting for material repair. Museums curate exhibits balancing donor comfort against historical accuracy pressures. Interactive displays emphasize resilience narratives, minimizing structural aggression. Police reform discussions reference lessons learned abstractly, avoiding historical specifics. Accountability frameworks exclude past actions deemed contextually understandable. Black communities recognize patterns repeating during later protests. Strategies eerily familiar. Uniforms change. Language updates. Responses remain structurally consistent. Media coverage frames modern unrest as unprecedented, severing continuity intentionally. Historical amnesia protects institutions from cumulative judgment. Legal scholars note that doctrines enabling discretionary force trace their origins to earlier unrest. Footnotes reference cases that few readers pursue beyond summaries. Educational standards committees debate curriculum length, citing limited classroom time. Complex histories are shortened, sanitized, deferred indefinitely. Tourism campaigns highlight heritage districts rebuilt after destruction. Guided tours avoid discussing how the clearance occurred originally. Black descendants locate family names and overlooked casualty lists, margins annotated faintly. Personal grief collides with public narratives denying deliberate harm. Community archives digitize records independently, preserving testimony outside official channels. Funding remains scarce, reliance on volunteers constant. When anniversaries arrive, official statements emphasize reflection and unity. Grassroots events focus on remembrance, accountability, and unresolved injustice. The divide between narratives widens, sustained by institutional endorsement patterns. Power determines which version circulates broadly. Modern policy debates echo assumptions formed during Red Summer responses. Order remains prioritized over equitable protection consistently. The violence never ended formally. It was administratively absorbed. Its legacy persists through procedures refined, normalized, and defended. History did not forget accidentally. It was guided deliberately. The mechanisms remain active, shaping present decisions quietly.